I, 36-year-old female, am a stay-at-home mom with two young kids, 4 and 3. I graduated in cosmetology and worked in the profession to put myself through school, but really only do close friends and family hair out of my garage at this point. My mom thinks she needs a trim every 3 to 4 weeks and a color every 6, which is not the case, and I have told her so. My parents live 2 hours away, so basically every time I see them, they require a haircut/color. I don't charge them, but my mom does buy her own hair color with my discount, roughly $10 in supplies per color. My parents used to wait until right as I was walking out the door from a weekend visit to ask for haircuts/color, so I'd have to make my family wait while I took care of that. There was once when I was leaving a week-long family vacation and my kids were loaded in the car when they asked. I was trying to quickly get their hair cut, but when it was my dad's time for a cut, he told me to wait a minute while he finished a game of cornhole with my brother. After this experience, I felt that my time wasn't being respected or appreciated. I spoke with my parents and told them so. Because of this, they would sometimes start asking for hair services when we were discussing plans of a visit, but it was only about 50% of the time. The other 50% being short notice, or right as one of us was leaving. They also started sometimes paying me by bringing me things that I mention I need to buy. Tweezers and a spaghetti server spoon come to mind. These things are nowhere near the price point that I could make in a salon. Being my mom requires a root retouch, a full head of lowlights, and a trim, which at a low-cost salon would cost at least $150. I should mention my mom never wanted me to go to cosmetology school and actually kicked me out of the house when I decided to go into cosmetology after graduating with my associate's degree and still having a full tuition scholarship at the college 3 hours away. She wanted me to attend the local university, which I did later on, to get my bachelor's degree. My son turned 3 this past Saturday, the 3rd. Birthdays are a big deal in my book, and anyone who knows me knows that. So with this being my son's golden birthday, turning the age that matches your birth date, I was going all out and threw a huge party for him with all cousins from both sides of the family. It was Mario themed, and I made life-size games of his favorite Mario Party games. My parents leave on a cruise a week after the party, so when I sent out the party invite, I was asked if I can color their hair while they are visiting for the party. I told them on Sunday I could, but with Saturday being such a big day, I would need to focus my time, energy on the party and other plans we had that day. There was one game for the party that I needed butcher paper for, and since my mom works for a school, she has access to it. I spoke to her Monday before the party. Party was Saturday, and asked her to get me paper. I went Tuesday and got measurements and texted her the same day, so she could know exactly what colors and lengths I needed. She was planning on coming early on Saturday morning, but my parents notoriously run a half hour to an hour late, and I know I wouldn't have the time to complete what I needed to with the paper. They can only stay away from home for 24 hours due to animals, so I told my parents they should come down Friday night, and if they arrived early evening, like 6 p.m., I could do their hair and also get done what I needed to. My mom never commits to anything, and this was no different. The best I got was, we'll see what happens, but the plan was for sure early evening Friday. On Friday, 5 p.m. rolls around, and I see from the location on their phone that they are still at home, 2 hours away. I text as a prompt to ask when they will be arriving. My mom texts back and says they are still packing and will probably leave in an hour, putting them at my house at 8. I am upset, so decide to just call. I ask if there is any way they can leave sooner, since we discussed early evening, because I don't want to be up until all hours of the night doing hair and finishing what I need to for the party. My mom reminded me that my dad had a doctor's appointment, but I reminded her that we talked about them packing beforehand so they could leave straight from the doctor and be at my house at 6:30 at the latest. She responded with, "Yeah, it would be great if everything worked out like that, but it doesn't. But I couldn't pack last night because I was out at the school for an hour getting you your paper." I calmly said, "Wait, why are you blaming me for this? I texted you about the paper on Tuesday, 4 days ago. Well, I couldn't get it by myself, and so I had to wait for Dad to be home to go to the school with me. Keep in mind, my parents have FaceTimed me almost every night of the last week to try on their new cruise clothes for me. I'm angry that I am blamed for their lack of planning as far as packing for the weekend in advance. I was on speaker, and my husband agrees that she was blaming me for their tardiness. They finally arrived at 8:30 p.m., and I spent the next 2 hours at the event space prepping the butcher paper, which my parents came over later and helped tape to tables. I did their hair on Friday night, despite the full day we had just had, and my level of exhaustion. Since then, my mom called to tell me that her hair is too dark. We did the same color we always do, and also requested $13 for the butcher paper since she had to buy it from the school, and $6 for the ice cream that they picked up at the store for us. This rubs me wrong since $19 for 3 hours of work. Seems like they should have footed those bills. I can't enjoy the times when I do see them because it's always about me doing hair. And they simply don't respect my time. If I was not their daughter and they had to set an appointment to do their hair, I feel like they would be on time, or at least closer to it. My question is, will I be the jerk if I tell my parents they need to find someone else to do their hair? I know it will cause a rift, but I again feel unappreciated and disrespected. My husband is supportive, but has pointed out I shouldn't have been surprised by their tardiness since it's standard for them, and I was planning on paying for the paper and ice cream anyway. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Hey Mom, just sent the $19 for the birthday supplies. Thank you for picking them up for me. I honestly thought we were a family that did favors for free for each other from time to time, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So, going forward, it's $20 for a basic cut and $100 for color, which is still a great family discount for you. I won't charge you for all of the other times I cut your hair for free, as it was genuinely a favor done because I wanted to be nice and help the family, but I haven't been getting the same effort back from you guys, so I think it's best I am appropriately paid. I will also not be doing hair without 24 hours notice. Love you guys. Thanks for coming to the party. They will attempt to send the money back, but don't let them. You are not the idiot, and your family will never appreciate what you do unless you put a cost to it. Comment 2. People can only take advantage of you if you let them. Don't underestimate the size of the rift it's going to cause when you stop doing your parents' hair. The longer you wait to set boundaries, the harder it is, because everything is so much more entrenched. Based on your age, I'm guessing your mom might be from a generation that sometimes takes a ton of vanity in their hair, and they basically can't imagine their hair not being colored, i.e., the dreaded going gray. In her mind, going gray is for other people, not for her. So just be aware that a firestorm might be coming. She might take it as an attack on her identity rather than just a simple yes-no haircutting decision. Good luck. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a week since I posted about the ongoing hair saga with my parents, and let me tell you, things have escalated. So, after the whole mess with the butcher paper and the late arrival for my son's birthday, I thought things would settle down. But nope, my parents left for their cruise, and I was left to stew in my frustration. I had a long talk with my husband about setting boundaries, and he agreed that it was time for a change. Fast forward to Tuesday, and I get a call from my mom. She's on the cruise, and guess what? She's unhappy with her hair color. Again, she's going on and on about how it's ruining her vacation and how she's getting weird looks from other passengers. I reminded her that we use the same color we always do, but she wasn't having it. Now here's where the new drama kicks in. My dad gets on the phone, and he's fuming. Apparently, my mom had been so upset about her hair that she convinced him to pay for a color correction at the ship's salon, and it cost them a whopping $200. He demanded that I reimburse them since it was my fault she needed it fixed in the first place. I was shocked. I couldn't believe they expected me to pay for something that wasn't even my mistake. I tried to reason with them, explaining that I followed the usual procedure, but my dad cut me off, saying that I obviously didn't care about how they felt. The call ended pretty badly, with my dad saying some pretty hurtful things about my career choice, bringing up old wounds from when they kicked me out for going to cosmetology school. It was like a slap in the face, reminding me of the days when I had to couch surf with friends and work odd jobs to make ends meet before I got back on my feet. I was fuming and needed to vent, so I called my brother. He's always been the neutral party in family conflicts, but this time he surprised me. He took their side, saying that I should have been more careful and that it was just $200. I couldn't believe it. My own brother, who used to sneak me money for textbooks when our parents cut me off, was now telling me I was in the wrong. Feeling betrayed, I hung up and broke down in tears. My husband found me like that and was furious. He's always been my rock, supporting me through my cosmetology career, even when it meant we had to tighten our budget so I could buy my own salon equipment. He wanted to call my parents and give them a piece of his mind, but I stopped him. I didn't want this to turn into an even bigger family feud. But inside, I was starting to think that maybe it was time to cut professional ties with my parents. The next day, I got a text from my mom. She apologized for the outburst, but still insisted that I should cover at least half of the salon cost. I didn't respond. I needed time to think. Now it's been a few days of radio silence from my end, and my parents are back from their cruise. They've been calling and leaving messages, acting like nothing happened, even sending pictures of themselves with their fixed hair. I'm at a crossroads. I love my parents, but I'm tired of feeling unappreciated and disrespected. My husband says I should stand my ground, and I know he's right, but the thought of causing a rift in the family is eating me up inside. I left my friend's bachelorette party in Italy early because the men we met made me feel unsafe. She's mad, but I stand by my decision. I, a 24-year-old female, have a friend who is 32 years old and got engaged. She decided to have a girls' trip for her bachelorette party, and we chose Italy as the destination. There were 6 of us on the trip. My friend enjoys drinking and partying, while I don't drink much, but will indulge on special occasions or celebrations. During this trip, I tried my best to participate in the drinking. I'm a very outgoing and extroverted person, so whether I'm sober or drunk, my energy is the same. I have tried to explain this to my friend for years, but she still gets sad when others don't drink as much as her. It's physically impossible for me to keep up with her drinking, but I made a sincere effort to indulge her on this trip. I wanted her to be happy. I'm sharing this to show that I had good intentions going into the trip. However, there was a boundary that I had to draw. We met some young people who invited us to a party. We went and danced and met more people. The night went on and we ended up far from our place of lodging. These young men, along with 2 women in their group, told us to stay with them for the night. I wasn't comfortable with this situation. It felt unsafe, but the group decided to stay with them, and I was in the minority. They were all heavily intoxicated, and as the only sober person, it was difficult for me to convince them to reconsider and take a cab back to our place of lodging. I didn't trust these men. Something felt off. However, I couldn't separate from my group and didn't feel safe doing so in the middle of the night. We went to their house and settled in. In the middle of the night, I heard attempts being made to enter our room. The men entered, even though we had locked the doors. I pretended to be asleep while the men spoke in Italian, but it felt like they were checking on us and planning something. They were arguing with each other and eventually left to argue outside. I didn't sleep the entire night. I texted my boyfriend and told him what was happening and that I felt unsafe. The next morning, the group of girls I was with decided to stay another day because these men offered to show us around. I didn't want to get into a car with them because I found them creepy. Even with women in their group, they seemed even more suspicious to me and were overly friendly. Throughout the morning, the men stared at me a lot and made comments about my ethnicity. I am Korean, asking strange questions like if I'm a virgin. In my mind, I could only think of perverted reasons for these questions because I thought these guys were sketchy and had ulterior motives for sizing us up. And my friends said it was a language barrier issue. and that I probably misunderstood. They were enjoying the attention from these seemingly affluent men who were going to take us on a yacht. My suspicions and concerns were ignored. I spoke to my boyfriend in France, and he offered to come and get me. I accepted his offer. Am I the jerk for leaving the trip because I felt uncomfortable and unsafe? I tried to communicate all of this to my friend, but she didn't feel the same, so I had to prioritize my own safety. The men were suggesting that they would drive us to get our things from the hotel and that we could stay with them instead, and the girls were considering it. I left the trip 4 days early. Eventually, the girls came back and told me how creepy and scary the men had become, confirming that I was right. However, the friend whose bachelorette it was is mad at me for leaving. Edit. I want to add that my boyfriend offered to drive them to our booked hotel, and I strongly urged them to follow the planned itinerary. We even found a legitimate company that offered yacht services, and my boyfriend offered to pay as a gift for my friend. However, she and the others wanted to go with that group of men. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You felt unsafe, actually were smart enough to listen to your gut and left, and avoided a terrible situation. Your safety has to be your top priority. You need to dump the friend who always gets upset when you won't drink as much as she can, which is literally impossible for you. Doesn't matter if it was her bachelorette party. Your boyfriend even found safer ways to experience what the foolish friend wanted to do. Dump as a friend any of the other foolish girls who have the nerve to be the least bit upset with you for leaving a dangerous situation. Comment 2. She is 8 years older than you and mad at you for drinking less and leaving in a potentially dangerous situation in a foreign country. Do you know how stupid that is? The fact that the group prioritized hanging with 2 weird men over you is bizarre enough. Not the idiot. You have a good boyfriend. I hope you can lean on him when you experience more awfulness if you go to the wedding. I'm glad you got out of that situation. The fact that they went into your room while you were all sleeping? Holy shoot. Horror film stuff right there. Now, for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been a week since I posted about my bachelorette party nightmare in Italy, and boy, do I have an update for you. Buckle up, because this has been one heck of a ride. So after I left Italy, my boyfriend picked me up, and we spent a couple of days trying to relax in France. But I couldn't shake off the worry from my friends who were still with those creepy guys. I kept texting them, making sure they were okay, but their replies were getting more and more sporadic. Turns out, my gut feeling was right on the money. After I left, things got really weird with the men. One of the girls, let's call her Lisa, had a guy who wouldn't leave her side. He was always there, touching her arm, trying to kiss her, and she was clearly uncomfortable. She told us later that he kept whispering things in Italian, thinking she couldn't understand. But thanks to a semester abroad in Rome, she caught enough to know he was saying some pretty explicit stuff. Another friend, Emily, found a camera hidden in the bathroom. Yeah, you read that right. A freaking camera. They confronted the men, and it blew up into a huge argument. The women in their group, they vanished. Poof. Like they were never there. That's when my friends knew they had to get out. They managed to leave the next morning while the guys were still asleep, grabbed their stuff from the hotel, and booked it to the nearest police station. The police were involved, and it was a whole thing. My friends were safe but shaken up. They couldn't believe what had happened and how close they'd come to something potentially dangerous. Now here's the twist. Remember the friend whose bachelorette it was? Let's call her Sarah. She's been my best friend since high school. We've been through everything together. Breakups, family drama, you name it. She's always been the wild one, pushing boundaries and living for the moment. I've always been the cautious one, the planner. It's worked for us until now. Sarah was the last to admit that the situation was bad. She kept making excuses for the guys, saying we were overreacting. But when they found that camera, even she couldn't deny it anymore. She was embarrassed, I think, that she'd put us in that situation, and she didn't know how to face me after I'd warned her. When they got back, Sarah was different. She was quiet, withdrawn. She wouldn't talk about what happened. and she was still mad at me for leaving early. She said I abandoned her on her bachelorette trip, that I thought I was better than them for not getting caught up in the partying. It hurt. I was just trying to look out for everyone. But Sarah saw it as a betrayal. We had a huge fight over the phone. She said some things, I said some things. It wasn't pretty. I reminded her about the time in college when she got too drunk at a party and I stayed up all night taking care of her. Or the time she went through a bad breakup and I was there every day with ice cream and bad movies. I thought that would remind her of how much I cared, but it just made things worse. She accused me of holding those things over her head, like I was keeping score. That wasn't it at all. I just wanted her to see that I've always been there for her, even when it wasn't fun or convenient. So now, we're not talking. The wedding is in a month, and I don't even know if I'm still the maid of honor, or if I'm even invited. It's a mess, but here's the bittersweet part. The rest of the girls, they've been amazing. They've rallied around me, thanking me for trying to keep them safe, for being the voice of reason. We've grown closer because of this whole ordeal. They've been checking in on me, making sure I'm okay with the Sarah situation. It's nice to know they've got my back. My wife hides a secret credit card and affair, so I confront her, but she plays dumb. I find hidden cash, and now she's in for a reality check. I and my wife have always had the same issue of her not really thinking about me when she plans stuff. She withholds a ton of information. For example, she received a promotion to be moved to a different school as an assistant food director and did not tell me. I found out 2 days before she is to move to the new school that she was promoted. I have always asked her what my purpose here is with her, but she just says, I love this relationship. I found out that she planned a trip to England with her friend who lives there, and she didn't tell me about it until she ran out of money for her return ticket back 2 weeks beforehand. I asked her why I wasn't invited, and she still has yet to give me an answer. It really hurt me because her mother isn't happy that we're together and refuses to meet me, both queer, which she hates. All of her family is really distant, so I don't have any in-laws. And the most I can do is meet her friends, which she also hoards. All of my friends and my mother have asked me why she didn't invite me as her wife naturally. I have always been the one who thinks about my wife and puts our relationship in the forefront, but she has never really done that for me. My wife keeps saying it's because she's an only child and has a mentality to do things for herself. But we've been married for 6 years. How long does it take to consider me? She went on her trip January 24th and stayed until the 30th. During that time, she didn't call me at all, except for one time to tell me that she got to see her godson. My response to that was, I wish I could have also met him in person. Her response was, well, on that note, I'm going to bed and I'll talk to you later. Later never came, by the way. I personally did not want to call her at all either at this point. While she was away, I managed to save the $150 I had until tomorrow, tooth for payday. My money was dwindling because she decided to get a puppy that she does not want, and it has been on me to take care of the dogs and our 2 cats. I was down to a little bit above 90 when I look at my bank account and saw that she took $50 from me. She never consulted with me about taking the money, and I actually did need that $50 for a bill and other items. I called her about it, and the only thing she said was, it won't happen again. Really? I didn't even know that she had money for a flight there. $550, a flight back $600, money for the train back home $5+, an Uber from the train station $15, and $400 to get her hair done before she went. I have been over here struggling to maintain our household, and she's money hoarding, and I still don't know what she spent the money on. Today I woke up to a text saying, "Did you even miss me? You haven't asked me at all about my trip." I honestly have not responded yet because I don't know what to say. Am I the jerk for not caring to hear about her trip when she didn't even invite me? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Get separate accounts so that she can't take your money. Place the puppy with a rescue organization which keeps them until they're placed in permanent homes. Realize that she isn't going to change her selfish ways. Speak with a good divorce attorney if you decide to start putting yourself first. In my opinion, the answer to your purpose for being there should have been, because I love you. I wish you well. Comment 2. She didn't tell because you are a resource. That's why she loves this relationship. You provide emotional and financial support when she needs it, and she doesn't have to think of your needs at all. Not the idiot. It's time to separate your wages and savings and work out an exit plan. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I'm still reeling from the events of the past 2 weeks. After my wife returned from her trip to England, things went from bad to worse. Remember how she took $50 from my account without asking? Well, turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. I discovered she had secretly opened a credit card in my name and racked up over $2,000 in charges while abroad. I only found out when the bill arrived, and she nonchalantly tossed it on the kitchen table like it was just another piece of junk mail. I confronted her about it, and she just shrugged, saying she needed a little extra for the trip. A little extra? She spent most of it on fancy dinners and souvenirs for her friend and godson. I was floored. How could she not think about the consequences, or about me, her partner, who's been struggling to keep our finances afloat? But wait, it gets steamier. I started noticing she was getting texts at all hours of the night. One night, her phone buzzed while she was in the shower, and I saw a message from her friend in England, the one she visited. It was a heart emoji, followed by, "Can't stop thinking about our night together." My heart sank. I felt like I was in a bad dream. When I confronted her, she admitted they had a moment, but insisted it was a one-time mistake. A mistake? That's not a mistake. That's a betrayal. I was ready to pack my bags, but then I remembered our pets. They didn't ask for any of this drama. So I stayed, for them. I've been taking care of the puppy she impulsively bought, along with our 2 cats. They've become my solace in this chaos. And her mother, the one who refuses to meet me because we're both women, she suddenly decided to visit us. I thought maybe she was coming around, but no. She came to tell me to my face that I wasn't good enough for her daughter, that I was the reason my wife was acting out. Can you believe that? As if I haven't been the one trying to hold everything together. My friends and my mom have been my rock through all of this. They've seen how much I've put into this relationship, and they're just as outraged as I am. They keep telling me I deserve better, and I'm starting to believe them. But here's where karma subtly stepped in. My wife's new job as an assistant food director, she was so busy with her secret credit card and her affair that she didn't read the fine print in her contract. She needed a specific certification that she doesn't have. They demoted her back to her old position with a pay cut to boot. She came home fuming, saying it wasn't fair. Fair? After everything she's done, she's talking about fair? And that puppy she didn't want? Turns out he has a knack for finding hidden things. Just yesterday, he dug up a stash of cash she had buried in the backyard. Money she'd been hiding from me while I was scraping by to pay our bills. I used it to pay off the credit card debt she accumulated under my name. She hasn't noticed yet, and I haven't decided if I'm going to tell her. Today, she had the nerve to ask me if I was going to leave her. I haven't answered yet. I'm still picking up the pieces of my dignity and self-respect. But one thing's for sure, I'm not the same person who was waiting for her to come back from that trip. I'm stronger now, and I'm not going to be walked over anymore. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.